What's up, guys? We're back with NBA action here on Sunday, April 14th, the last day of the NBA regular season. The MLB games for Saturday ended up going pretty okay for us. We went 2-2, but we nailed our two biggest bets. We took a very tough loss on the under here in the first game of the Minnesota-Detroit doubleheader. We took under 8 in that game, and it was looking good as gold until we got into extra innings, where we ended up losing that one in a crazy high-scoring extra innings session. Our biggest bet of the day was the Astros -1.5. That came through very comfortably. We collected plus 134 on that one, so that felt great. The Cardinals, unfortunately, couldn't come through for us. They lost a pretty close game, falling to the Diamondbacks 4-2. That was a pretty big disappointment, but then our second biggest game of the day, we had the Chicago Cubs -1.5, and that came through for us, netting us plus 135. So when you win your two biggest bets of the day, you can't feel too bad about that. We're going to touch on all 15 of the games for the last day of the NBA regular season. There's tons at stake right now with the play-in tournament and playoffs looming, so we're going to go over everything. Take a second and hit the like button to show some support for the channel and all the work we put in here every single day. If you're new, take a second and subscribe. It's 100% free and can keep you from missing out on these picks. These videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description to go over there and join our free email list and check out our top confidence plays on all the major sports. Comment below with all the bets you're looking at today, and we'll give you our best advice on all of them. We respond to absolutely every single comment, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our final picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day. We've got the Washington Wizards going on the road to take on the Boston Celtics. Washington comes into this game fresh off of another loss. They lost by only 2 points to the Chicago Bulls, a pretty solid performance from them, but just in general, right now, this is the last game of the regular season, and it has been kind of a wasted season for them. Things have not worked out like they hoped. We did not see the development of Kuzma and Jordan Poole like this team was thinking they might see. This Poole contract is looking like an absolute albatross right now. I don't think anybody's going to be very interested in him. He sat out their last game against the Bulls where they had that close loss, and he's questionable for this one. Looking at the Wizards injury report in general, we see Kuzma is out. We see Tyus Jones also marked as out, but other than that, it looks like they're going to have the regular guys that they're used to having at this point here in the season. It's kind of a skeleton crew for this squad. They haven't been having a great time lately, but they've been staying kind of competitive. Losing by 8 points at Toronto is not a great look, obviously, but they've been keeping things close. Like, they kept things very close with the Bulls, albeit not a full-strength Bulls team. It was the short-handed Bulls, but still, they kept things close against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So just in general, this team is still showing a little bit of fight. They're going up against the Boston Celtics in this one. Boston also is a team with absolutely nothing to play for right now. They've got that top spot in the East absolutely locked up. They've had it locked up for quite some time, and they are resting everybody in this game. We see Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis all listed as out. Horford is going to be out for this game as well. This is just a get through this game, get it to the postseason, and stay healthy situation for the Celtics. They're not risking any of their meaningful players. Anybody that gets hurt in this one for them is going to be somebody they definitely feel like they can live without. In the Celtics' 131-98 win over the Hornets, we saw their second unit look very dominant. They absolutely destroyed the Hornets in that game, who were actually playing like mostly their normal lineup. Kind of embarrassing for Charlotte to just get absolutely worked by the second stringers here. Peyton Pritchard looked like a monster. This guy has always wanted a slightly bigger role. He never seems to get it. He's not a very big guy, but he can put up some numbers. He scored 31 points in that game, went 14 of 22 from the field overall. A very good look from him. Just in general, we saw the Celtics second stringers. They played great. They shot over 50% from the field. They dominated the boards in that game. I think the guys like Hauser and Cornette and Pritchard are all borderline starter level NBA players, or they will be within the next couple years. So they're looking very good right now. Obviously, this is a meaningless game to the Celtics, but it's not a meaningless game here to their bench guys. This is a meaningless game to the Washington Wizards, who have been looking like absolute dumpster fires lately. Give me Boston -9.5 in this one. I don't know yet whether this is going to be one of our bigger plays of the day. Always check in the pinned comment for our top plays, but this one looks pretty good to us. In the over-under for this game, we see that both of these are slight over teams on the season. The number's at 223.5. I do think we could see significant offense in this one, especially if Jordan Poole plays, but he's really not a great reason to be looking for tons of offense. Just in general, though, the Wizards have been scoring a lot of points lately. All of their games seem to be well in the 130s over the last 3, so give me the over as a small lean in this one, and the Celtics -9.5. Next up, we have the Charlotte Hornets going on the road to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Charlotte comes in this game fresh off of that blowout loss to the Celtics second stringers that we were just talking about. Man, not even being able to score 100 points and getting blown out by 33 by a team's second unit. That has to be an all-time low for any NBA franchise. Things have looked absolutely terrible for the Hornets in everything except for the development of guys like Brandon Miller. We didn't see very much LaMelo LaMelo Ball this season. He had a bad time, just could not stay healthy, could not stay on the court. When he's out there, he looks good, but does this guy really have the hunger to play? And does this franchise really have what it takes to like build a decent career, build a decent core of players here? I don't know, guys. Things are very up in the air for them. They come into this game, it looks like they're pretty much likely to play kind of everybody. We do see Miles Bridges and Grant Williams on the injury report. There's some chance we could see them out there for this game, but things just not looking very hot in Charlotte right now. They're having a terrible time. They've had a terrible season. Nothing good to report for them. The Cavaliers come into this game. They've won 2 in a row. They just won a 9-point game over the Indiana Pacers. A pretty solid outing for them. We see that the Cavaliers are currently 1 game back of the Knicks and the Bucks for that 2 and 3 seed race out there. They're 2 games up in the Orlando Magic and the Pacers, so they don't have to worry about that. They're not going to fall below the 4 seed, but they could put some pressure on those other teams if they can go ahead and get this win. We see that Cleveland comes into this game playing relatively well. Looking at their depth chart, we do see that Donovan Mitchell is listed as out. Darius Garland is listed as day-to-day, and he's officially doubtful for this one with a lower back contusion, so it seems like they're going to be without 2 of their better players. Guys, this is a pretty tough look for me. We do see that Charlotte is a league worst 14 and 26 against the spread on the road, so not feeling great about that one. Not that Cleveland's amazing playing at home, but they do have some talent on the roster, and it looks like they're going to play some amount of their guys. It seems like their idea is just enough to get the win here. So if you wanted to take Charlotte in a little bit of a bounce back spot here after getting absolutely embarrassed, you could definitely do that. This isn't a game I'm going to be on in a big way, at least against the spread. Looking at the over-under numbers for this one, we see that Cleveland is slightly an over team when playing at home, that Charlotte's basically a 50-50 team. I don't think we're going to see a ton of defense played in this game. The over-under is listed at 207.5. Go ahead and give me the over on that one. I feel pretty decent about the over. The spread, though, that one's a little bit of a question mark for me, so we're going to move on from this one with our only real lean being the over. Next up, we got the Atlanta Hawks going on the road to take on the Indiana Pacers. Atlanta is locked into their play-in spot right now, and they have to feel kind of lucky about that because they're only 36 and 45 on the season overall, and they've lost their last 5 games in a row. That's not really too much to be wondered at. We do see that the Hawks have pretty much everybody off of the injury report for this game, which is kind of shocking given the fact that they have nothing to gain and nothing to lose by winning or losing this game, but maybe they're just using this as a slight tune-up. I'm not really sure. Maybe they're just wanting to give Dejounte Murray and Trae Young a little bit of time to get re-familiarized with each other out there on the floor, but regardless, kind of interesting to see that they are listed to be playing all of their guys. Obviously, things can change. Keep an eye on injury reports or updates leading up to game time. Looking at the spread for this game makes me think they're not playing most of their guys, though, so this is kind of a weird spot. I don't really have great updates on whether or not we're going to see Trae Young and Dejounte Murray in this game. According to the reports that I'm seeing, it's unclear whether Trae Young and Dejounte Murray are going to play in this game, so keep an eye on it, but right now, looking at the spread being Indiana minus 14, that makes me think that Atlanta is not going to be playing their better guys. The Pacers come into this game, they're 46 and 35 overall. They find themselves sitting in the 6th seed, and they need to win this game to make sure that they can stay there. Indiana is not going to be wanting to drop down into that play-in tournament. It's not going to be a very fun place to be. It's definitely somewhere you could get out of in the Eastern Conference, but you don't want to end up playing either the Celtics or the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round unless you're very, very confident that Giannis isn't going to be coming back. Then playing the Bucks doesn't sound too bad. Indiana's looked decent here to close the season out. They're 6-4 over their last 10, but their last time out they did lose to the Cavaliers by 9, so not a fantastic look. 14 points scares me a little bit unless we see Atlanta sitting everybody. If we officially see Atlanta sitting everybody, go ahead and give me Indiana minus 14 in this one. They're 21-17-2 against the spread at home, but slightly more important, we see Atlanta is only 14 and 25 against the spread playing away from home, which is a near league worst against the spread mark. So pretty terrible in that one. Looking at the over-under for this game, we see it's 236.5. I don't really think that the Atlanta second stringers, which that's what we're going to bank on in this game, is that Atlanta is going to be playing their second unit only. I don't think they'll put up that many points, so I don't really think I'm going to be on the over-under in this game in a meaningful way. Moving right along, we got the Toronto Raptors going on the road to take on the Miami Heat. Toronto comes into this game fresh off of an annoying loss to the Miami Heat. They got blown out in that one despite kind of trying, kind of putting their guys out there, and they just couldn't find a way to keep things even remotely attached. The Raptors haven't had anything to play for quite some time, but it does look like they're going to be playing most of their guys in this game, or at least that's what it looks like right now, with the exception of Emmanuel Quickley. He is listed as out. I think they're going to go ahead and just hold him out of this last game. He's got a left abductor strain, so not going to be seeing him out there in a meaningless game here at the end of the season. The Raptors have not had a good year overall. They haven't really developed their young talent. They did get much younger. They were big sellers at the trade deadline or a little bit before that, so we'll see what they can actually do down the road with all these young assets, but right now the jury's out on that, and the jury is definitely out on how good this team could be in the future. The They're taking on the Miami Heat, a team that just destroyed them and needs to get another win. The Heat currently find themselves in the 8th seed, but they could move up if they see stumbles from the 76ers, Pacers, or Magic. There's all kinds of reasons for the Heat to try and win this game. The odds makers think they're going to be really putting the effort. Miami is listed as minus 15.5 for this game. We see that Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson are both listed as out, but other than that, this team looks like they're going to be playing everybody. Yeah, officially, Terry Rozier will not be playing in this game, and officially, Duncan Robinson is questionable for this one. So it seems like the Heat are going to take this one relatively seriously. They're definitely going to want Tyler Hero to get some more reps in. Jimmy Butler's going to be out there. Jovic has been playing fantastic. He's going to be out there, and we see Bam not on the injury report at all. So we're going to expect to see a mostly full-strength Miami Heat team going up against the lowly Toronto Raptors, who looked kind of like a dumpster fire lately. Miami minus 15.5 is my very, very small lean, but I don't really love it. I think Toronto could keep this game a little bit closer than the last one, or maybe the Heat will take it a little bit less seriously. I don't know, guys. I don't really have much of a lean on this one against the spread, to be honest. Looking at the over-under for this one, we see that Toronto is a major over team when playing on the road, and we see that the Heat, they put up a bunch of points against them last time. They're more than happy to pile up some numbers, and I think we could see Miami put up a ton of numbers again in this one. So if you wanted to take a bite of the over-under and lean towards the over in this game, that would make the most sense to me. Next up, we have the Chicago Bulls going on the road to take on the New York Knicks. Chicago comes into this game. They are locked into their play-in spot in the East. They're going to be facing off the Hawks here in the first, round, if you want to call it that, of the NBA play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference. They've actually been doing relatively well here down the stretch. The Bulls have won their last 2 in a row, albeit over the Wizards and the Detroit Pistons. They haven't exactly needed to play their A game right now. Chicago has the space to be resting guys. We have seen Kobe White, Caruso, DeRozan, and Vucevic. They're all off of the injury report. We do see Dosunmu. He's listed as out for this game. Javonte Green is day-to-day. So we do see on the injury report here that it looks like they might be playing some of their guys, but I kind of tend to doubt that. It doesn't really make any sense. Why would they put them out there for more than just maybe a small taste of action? I don't think we'll see them for the whole game. On the other side of the court, though, they're facing the New York Knicks, who are definitely going to be wanting to win this game. The Knicks are currently sitting in the 3 seed. They're tied with the Milwaukee Bucks for that 2 seed, so they definitely want to put on all the pressure they can by getting this win. The Bucks have a tough matchup against a team that's motivated to win this game, and they're not going to have Giannis as far as I can tell, so the Knicks definitely will be wanting to win this game. We see New York, they're a pretty solid 21-18-1 against the spread at home. This is a very big number for the Knicks, but they haven't had too much trouble covering some big numbers, and most importantly, they are a fully healthy team that's going to be playing everyone their full allotment of minutes, and we know with Thibodeau as their head coach, they're going to be playing a ton of minutes. So definitely we can look at New York minus 14.5 in this one. It's a very big spread, so I don't blame you if you want to stay away from that, but we can definitely take a look at the over-under in this one, because Chicago is slightly an over team. They're actually a pretty decent over team when playing on the road, but if they're not playing all of their guys in this one, we are definitely going to want to look at the under in this game, because the Knicks are 26-14 to the under when playing at home. We could worry about them putting up some crazy amount of points, but I think we're more likely to just see them completely stifle the Bulls' second unit and just go ahead and do most of the scoring themselves. So this is a tough one, guys. Another tough one. I know it's been a little bit rough here out of the gate. We've got some solid value coming up. Give me the Knicks minus 14.5 as a small taste, assuming that we see that everybody on Chicago is resting, and you can take a little bit of taste of that under if you're feeling like it. Next up, finally getting into a real game here with both teams very motivated to win. We've got the Milwaukee Bucks going on the road to take on the Orlando Magic. Milwaukee comes into this game fresh off of a pretty lopsided loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're going to be playing this game without Giannis, and they could be without Damian Lillard in this one. He's currently listed as probable with his abductor strain, so I think we'll see him play in this one. It's a pretty important game right now because the Bucks are currently tied with the New York Knicks for that 2nd seed in the East. They need to win this game or they're not going to be in the 2nd seed, and they are facing a very determined opponent in the Orlando Magic. Orlando has been slumping here at a pretty inopportune time. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They lost to the Rockets, the Bucks, and to the Philadelphia 76ers. That loss to the Bucks was a pretty embarrassing 18-point loss. Not exactly what you want to see in that one from Orlando. They're an aspiring young team. They want to put themselves in a good position in the playoffs, but they did not do that, getting worked by the Milwaukee Bucks, who didn't even have Giannis for that game. Orlando is relatively healthy for this one. They've got Wendell Carter Jr. listed as day-to-day. He is officially questionable for this one with his back issue. I think there's a very decent chance we see him play in this game, though. It's pretty important for them. They're definitely going to want to do everything they can to avoid that play-in tournament. They could drop that far if we see the Pacers and 76ers get wins and the Orlando Magic Magic lose. Looking at the spread in this game, we see that it's Orlando minus 4.5. That seems kind of generous to me given that they just lost to Milwaukee only a few days ago, albeit that game was in Milwaukee, but still very, very sketchy sounding to me. I'm having a hard time figuring out which way we want to go with this one, especially seeing that Milwaukee is 16-23 against the spread when playing on the road, and Orlando is one of the best teams against the spread playing at home. They are a near league best 26-13 at home against the spread. Guys, go ahead and give me Orlando minus 4.5. I guess I'm falling for this one. I think they'll find a way to bottle up Dame a little bit and get the win by a comfortable margin in this one, despite the fact they're playing against a team that they really had a hard time with the other night. Looking at the over-under in this game, we see it's a 214.5. Milwaukee is slightly an under team when they're playing on the road, and we see Orlando is a massive under team at home, a near league best 24-15 to the under. We saw a total of 216 in the last game these two teams played, so I think this one might be a little bit more serious, maybe a little bit more defense. It's going to be tough to see though. I tend to lean towards the under in this one, going with the trends, but my real bet on this game is going to be Orlando minus 4.5. Their trend at home, they're being near league best against the spread on their home court, is just too much for me to pass up. Next up, we're looking at the Brooklyn Nets going on the road to take on the Philadelphia 76ers. The Nets come into this game. Things have not exactly worked out the way they wanted to this season. They were hoping they could be competing for a play-in spot, but that has not been the reality. This team doesn't have anything to gain by tanking at this point in the season. They've played kind of okay here down the stretch. I mean, I'm not going to act like a 4-point win over the Toronto Raptors is great or a 10-point win over the Pistons, but they did take down the Indiana Pacers. They've had some semi-decent wins here down the stretch, but this team is just not one that's ready to compete. They come into this game looking relatively healthy. We're going to see Day'Ron Sharpe out and Cameron Johnson out, but other than that, they're going to have all their main pieces. Most importantly, they're going to have Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, and Nick Claxton out there. So they've got most of their better players, but when that's your better players, things are looking a little bit bleak for the old franchise. Brooklyn's going to have to take on the Philadelphia 76ers, who are playing great. They've won 7 in a row, and they're very motivated to win this game because they could climb their way out of the play-in tournament here. The 76ers have Embiid ready to go. He's currently on the injury report, kind of where we expect him to be for the rest of the season. He's listed as questionable for this one due to left knee injury recovery, which obviously makes sense, but I think we'll likely see him play in this game. It would be very surprising for him to sit out in what is a very important moment. Other than that, the 76ers have a clean bill of health. They've been playing so well here down the stretch. I don't think Brooklyn's going to give them too much trouble. We don't even know for sure if all the guys for Brooklyn are going to play in this game. The Nets are a near league worst 14-25 against the spread on the road. And we see Philadelphia, despite all the injuries, despite all the time Embiid has missed, they're still a very respectable 23-17 against the spread playing on their home court. So definitely give me a taste of Philadelphia minus 15.5. That huge number to me seems to indicate that we're very likely to see some of the Nets' main pieces end up sitting out of this game, even though they're not on the injury report right now. The over-under for this game is a very low number. It's 213.5. We see Brooklyn, no real trends there when they're on the road. Philly, no real trends there for that one. This is a pretty small number in general. If you wanted to take a taste of the over, I could get behind that, but my main pick in this game is going to be the 76ers minus 15.5. I know it's a huge number. Make sure you keep up to date and see if some Nets players are sitting out. Rolling right along here, we've got the Denver Nuggets going on the road to take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Denver comes into this game. They are fresh off of that very, very disappointing loss for them, but not for us. We had the Spurs plus 10.5, loss to the Spurs. So they're going to be out for blood in this one. They have to bounce back here and give themselves a chance to come out on top here in the Western Conference. We see a 3-way tie, the first time in history there have been 3 teams tied atop the Western Conference here going into the last game of the season. Denver currently has KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Jokic all listed on their injury report as day-to-day. I don't know who of those guys we're actually going to see. I don't think that Denver really cares all that much about getting that top spot. I mean, obviously they would probably prefer to have it, but with KCP questionable, Michael Porter Jr. questionable with an illness, Aaron Gordon questionable with a foot injury, and I guess get a little bit questionable after getting absolutely alphaed by Wembanyama. And Jokic, he's been questionable here for a while. He's questionable with his hip thing. He gets mauled every single game, so I don't know how the guy doesn't miss an occasional game, but it never seems like he does. Denver's second unit in general has not impressed me overall this season. I mean, if we're going to see a huge dose here of Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, okay, Peyton Watson, no slander there. The guys looked amazing, but Justin Holiday, like, this team doesn't have a crazy amount of depth. Like, are you going to convince me that a bunch of DeAndre Jordan minutes are going to be a good thing? I don't really see that as a positive. They are taking on one of the worst teams in the league, though, in the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis comes into this one fresh off of a 4th straight loss, but they did keep very, very close to the Lakers their last time out. They lost that game by only 3 points, pushing the Lakers to the limit. That felt pretty good for them, I would assume. The Grizzlies have had a season from hell this year. We do see a bunch of their guys listed out. Kennard, Vince Williams Jr., Santi Aldama, they're all listed as out for this game. John Concher's out, but this team does still have some pieces, like not exactly amazing pieces necessarily, not guys you would think would be quality NBA starters necessarily, at least not at this point in their careers, but they've been trying pretty hard. We saw them try really hard against the Lakers, and doing that here at the end of the season can definitely help you out. Concerningly, we see that Memphis is only 16-24 against the spread at home. Denver is 16-23-1 against the spread on the road. So I think we see Denver come out and try a little bit harder in this game, or we see them rest everybody and just concede that top seed. I don't think they really care too much, guys. They are an amazing team. I think they're going to run through the West here relatively comfortably. We'll see what actually happens when the playoffs start, though. Things can always change. So I don't have a real solid lean on this game. My gut says just take Memphis plus 13.5 and hope they can somehow hang on against a Denver team that we really don't know who's going to play, but I would say just wait for those injury reports to come out. We can look at the over-under for this game. We see Denver is a massive under team when playing on the road. They're 25-15 to the under playing away from home. We also see that Memphis is 26-13-1 to the under when playing at home. That's a league best to the under number. So our big bet on this game might end up being one of our bigger bets today, is going to be under 220.5 here in this Denver-Memphis game. I don't think we're going to see a ton of offense, especially if we see some Denver guys sit, and I don't think Memphis really has the talent to put up points. So definitely give me the under in this one. Next up, we've got one of the more interesting games of the day. We've got the Phoenix Suns going on the road to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Both of these teams have major reasons to want to win this game. The Timberwolves are obviously battling for that top spot in the West, and we see the Suns. This might even be a more important game for them. They're currently battling to try and avoid that play-in tournament. Phoenix is currently in the 7th seed. They're only a single game back of the New Orleans Pelicans, who also have a relatively competitive game lined up here, taking on the Lakers. So this could have major implications for these two teams. The Suns come into this game. They've won 2 in a row. They won by only a single point at Sacramento their last time out. A very close game. I thought they would have handled the very tired Kings, the shorthanded and tired Kings, a little bit better than that, but they didn't. The Suns have been a tough team to figure out this season, but they're healthy here at the right time. We saw some late game solid play from Bradley Beal against the Kings. Not something you see every night. And just in general, Phoenix, they've looked pretty good here down the stretch. Like, I'm not a huge fan of this squad. I think they might have a hard time here in the playoffs. They're very, very top heavy. They're going to need Durant, Booker, and Beal to all play amazingly well, and they're going to need Jusuf Nurkic to stay healthy, which is kind of a big ask, although he's done that so far this season, so maybe I shouldn't complain too much. But just in general, go ahead and ask Dame Lillard what it's like to have Nurkic as one of your most important players. The Suns, they're going to need to be on the top of their game going up against the Timberwolves, who come into this one fresh off of a solid win over the Hawks. Maybe that's not quite a solid win, but they did get the win. That's what you need at this point in the season. They've won 3 of their last 4 overall. They did have that late game collapse against the Nuggets, so the Timberwolves down the stretch in games are definitely a concern for me. Looking at their injury report, we see both Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns on the injury report. That's a little bit concerning. However, I think we can pretty much expect both of them to play. Edwards is questionable due to an illness. I think he'll be ready to go. I don't think we'll actually see him sit this game out just because he's a little bit under the weather. Karl Anthony Towns with his knee is questionable for this game also, but I think we can pretty much expect him to play in this game. He came back in his first action in so long on Friday against the Hawks. He looked kind of middle of the road. He had a lot of rust in that game, I would say. I mean, he scored 11 points, but only 4 of 11 from the field. He had 8 assists and 5 rebounds, though, so he's at least seeing the game well, so that's some positive trends to look at, but just in general, we're a little bit worried about his overall health. Guys, this is a tough one. There are a lot of tough ones out there today, but I'm going to take the veteran scoring of the Phoenix Suns in this game. Looking at the season series, we've seen the Suns win both of these games very, very comfortably. They went earlier this month, back on the 5th, 97-87, so I think we can definitely take Phoenix +2 in this one, despite the fact that they're playing on the road. That can be a little bit tough for them, but neither one of these teams have dominant trends home and away in this spot, so definitely give me Phoenix +2. I think they find a way to come out on top in this game. Looking at the over-under, we see it's at 216.5. Not a crazy number. Right now, the trends for both of these teams, they're slight under trends, but we're not going to really be on the over-under in this game. Just give me Phoenix +2. Moving right along to another game that has a lot of relevance when we're looking at the upcoming playoff picture here. We've got the Los Angeles Lakers going on the road to take on the New Orleans Pelicans. The Lakers come into this game. The only person on the injury report is Anthony Davis. We've got LeBron off the injury report, guys. That might be the first time all season long that he hasn't been on there. We see Davis is probable with his eye injury. Who knows? Maybe he'll get slapped in the face and just decide he doesn't want to play the rest of this game. Weirder things have happened for him for sure. Not a lot of faith in this guy, but in general, it's good to see the Lakers are healthy here, rounding into form, coming into playoff time. They were barely able to escape with a win against the Memphis Grizzlies. That's not a great look. They lost that game before that, losing to the Warriors in that game that Anthony Davis basically didn't play in, so that's a little bit embarrassing for him, but I would assume he's pretty much used to that kind of embarrassment at this point in his career. The guy sits out a lot of games. The important thing for this one is the Lakers are currently sitting in that 8 seed in the West. They're hoping they can hold on to that. They're stuck at the 8 seed. That's the highest they can go, but they could move down depending on how they do in this game and how the Kings and Warriors fare in their matchups. The Lakers are taking on the New Orleans Pelicans, who are also desperate for a win in this one. New Orleans comes into this game playing great. They've won their last 4 in a row. They kind of dominated the Warriors in that game. They had some problems with Steph. The main thing, though, was that the Pelicans absolutely shot the freaking lights out in that game. That felt like they could not miss from long range. We saw CJ McCollum have a very, very good game. We saw Zion do kind of what Zion needs to do, but the question is, can they shoot the ball that well again? The Pelicans come into this game very healthy. Got to be feeling good about that. It's fantastic to be healthy here at the end of the season, getting ready to head into the playoffs. Looking at the spread in this one, we see New Orleans is -3.5. The Lakers are only 17-22 against the spread playing on the road. The Pelicans are 20-19 against the spread at home, so not real great trends in that one. Nothing that we can really gain a lot of a lean from. Looking at the season series for this team, we see the Lakers have won 2 of the 3 games, and they've won the most recent game, but that was back in February, so we can't glean a ton of information from that one, but that definitely makes me a little bit more comfortable taking the Lakers in this game. I know they're playing on the road, so that can be a little bit tough, but they're getting 3.5 points in a game that I think could be very, very close. Keep an eye on Anthony Davis. I don't think the Pelicans really have anybody that can handle him if he decides to actually show up for this game, so give me the Lakers +3.5 in this one. Keep an eye on that pinned comment to see if this makes it as one of my core plays for the night. Next up, we got the Dallas Mavericks going on the road to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Dallas does not have much to play for at this point in the season. Right now, they're sitting in the 6th seed, and I don't think there's a way for them to go any lower than that. And looking at their injury report, we see that they are going to be playing absolutely no one in this game. Luka's out, Kyrie's out, Derrick Jones Jr. is out, Dino Gafford's out. We see Derek Lively II is out. Kleber's out. This squad is playing nobody. Dallas is not putting anyone at risk here at the end of the season. They are looking to go into the playoffs healthy, ready for that opening round matchup, which looks like it will very, very likely be against the Los Angeles Clippers. And Dallas probably feels pretty okay with that, with the availability of Kawhi very much still up in the air. The Mavs going to be tanking this game out. They're taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are not going to be tanking this game out. The Thunder look to be completely healthy, and they're going to be looking to play everyone in this game as they are battling it out here for that top spot in the Western Conference. The Thunder need to get this win to guarantee themselves the best chance that they can possibly have to get that spot, and the odds makers know that. They know that the Thunder are going to be out here to jump on this team, to jump on this game. The Thunder are -19.5. That's a crazy number, and even crazier, guys, we're going to have to think about taking that number because of who Dallas is going to be putting on the floor. The Thunder, they're very good against the spread team on the road, a near league best 26-14. Guys, I don't know if I'm going to be on this in a big way. That's just too many points for me, and maybe some of the Mavs backups want to feel like they can play spoiler. We see a crazy shooting game from Tim Hardaway Jr. My brain just tells me, though, we have to be at least on this Oklahoma City team, -19.5 a little bit. Looking at the over-under in this game, I think we can expect to see a decent amount of offense. It's currently at 223.5. We see that the Thunder are a slight over team when playing at home, and the Mavs are a slight over team playing on the road. So if you want to take a little bite of that over, I guess you could, but my main lean in this one, and I know it sounds crazy, so don't feel obligated to ride with me on this one, is the Thunder -19.5. I think this is pretty unlikely to make it into my core plays for the day. Next up, we've got one of the most irrelevant games of the day. We've got the Detroit Pistons going on the road to take on the San Antonio Spurs. If Wembanyama was going to play in this game, it would be a very relevant one. We'd be excited for it. We'd be ready to see him put up another crazy night, another crazy show, but unfortunately, he's going to be sitting out here in the last game of the regular season. The Pistons come into this game. They're not going to be playing anybody. I would think it's very hard to figure out their injury report. You never know who they're going to put out there on a nightly basis. We do see Cade is listed as out for this game. He's officially doubtful, so I don't think we'll see him. What do the Pistons have to play for this season? Nothing. What do they really have to play for in general? Not very much, but they did win the last time out against the Mavs, like second and third stringers. They won 107-89, so good for them. We saw Marcus Sasser score 24 points in his hometown return, so that had to feel very good for him, but just in general, not a lot to feel good about for the Pistons this season. The San Antonio Spurs, on the other hand, have tons to feel good about, and every single one of those things to feel good about are in the person of Victor Wembanyama. He's looked absolutely amazing. He's got Rookie of the Year sewn up. He's going to win that award for sure, and and they've been playing relatively well as a team, although I'm not really likely to be betting on this team with Wembanyama not out there. We can definitely look at the over-under for this game, though. We see that it's at 213.5, a very small number. Both these teams are slight over teams, and they're just going to be putting a bunch of guys out there that are just going to run up and down and shoot a lot. It's going to be an ugly game. Can it get over 213.5 points? I kind of think so. This isn't going to be one of our key plays, though. It's just a slight lean if you're really, really desperate to bet on this game in some way. I guess give me the over. Moving right along, we've got the Utah Jazz going on the road to take on the Golden State Warriors. The Jazz have shockingly won their last 2 games in a row despite putting a real skeleton crew out there. They took down the Clippers by 1 point their last time out, and before that they took down the Rockets by 3. The Jazz starting lineup is not looking very similar to what it looks like here at the beginning of the season, and it's not because they made trades, guys. They've just been shutting guys down for the season left and right. Keontae George has been looking good. We've seen some positive things from Taylor Hendricks, but just in general, this squad isn't what the Jazz are hoping that they'll see on the court next year on opening day. Utah has had some promising things turn up this season. Lauri Markkanen has continued to look very, very good. They've got some tradable pieces. The whole John Collins deal might not exactly be working out, but just in general, they've got some positives to look at this year, even though they're nowhere near the playoffs. They had some hot runs this season, but now it's time to get into the offseason and see what they can do to improve. They're going to be taking on a Warriors team who has some very relevant things to be playing for right now. If they win this game, they could possibly move up as high as the 8 seed, depending on what we see from the Lakers and the Sacramento Kings. So they're definitely going to be wanting to play their way out of that 10 seed. Not really where you want to be in the play-in tournament, although the Warriors, with all the problems they've had here, have to be a little bit happy just to be locked into the play-in. They lost their last game against the New Orleans Pelicans. They absolutely could not stop the Pelicans from just shooting the lights out from deep. We saw Kuminga sit out for that game, and in this one, it's looking like a lot of the Warriors are on the injury report. We see Curry, Thompson, Draymond Green, Chris Paul, Gary Payton, Kuminga, all on the injury report. We don't really know which of those guys are going to be playing yet. Kuminga is questionable. Chris Paul is questionable. Green is questionable. I think they're just waiting to see what they're actually going to need to do, who they're going to actually need to play in this game, whether or not they're going to play these guys. Seems like kind of a weird deal. We also saw Curry roll his ankle, which looked like it was going to be kind of bad against the Pelicans, but he stayed in the game and just kept knocking down crazy step back after crazy step back, so I guess he's not as hurt as it looked. Guys, this is going to be a game I stay away from until I get some more confirmation here on the injury report. Golden State is only -8 in this one, so that makes me think that a lot of these guys are actually going to sit this game out, and it's going to be a battle of the Warriors second stringers against the Jazz second stringers. That definitely does make me tend to look towards the Warriors a little bit. And in the over-under for this game, we see it's at 222.5, with both teams showing trends to the over. So if you want to take a little bite of the over, if you got faith in these second stringers knocking down some shots, I guess you could take that. But in general, this is a game I'm going to be staying away from until I see some more convincing injury news. Coming into the home stretch here, guys, we've got the Houston Rockets going on the road to take on the LA Clippers. Houston, obviously, not a lot to play for at this point in the season. They've looked kind of okay over the last couple of games. They won 2 of their last 3, but a loss in there to the Utah Jazz isn't exactly what you're looking for. Right now, Houston, they've got Van Vliet listed as questionable and Dylan Brooks listed as out for this game. I think it'll be a little bit shocking if we see Van Vliet in this one. Yeah, he's officially out. I take that back. He will not play in this game due to his hip. We're not going to see Dylan Brooks play in this one, so it's going to be the Jalen Green show if they even allow him out there. But looking at the spread for this game, it's Clippers +1.5, so I think we're definitely going to see Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, and Jabari Smith Jr. out there. You might as well play these young guys, might as well get them the reps. Even though Houston doesn't have anything to play for, they could finish this season 500. If they win this game, they'd be 41-41, so maybe that's just a little benchmark they want to hit as a franchise, and I couldn't really fault them for that. They've had a good season overall, better than a lot of people suspected. We saw Alperen Sengun emerge as a very legitimate, very good scorer, and more importantly, we've seen Jalen Green really show that he can be a monster out there. So this could be a team to watch for next year. A team to watch right now for this year, though, is the LA Clippers. They currently find themselves sitting in the 4 seed, and they are locked in there. They're not going to catch, obviously, any of the teams that are way above them in the battle for the first 3 seeds, and they can't fall down to where the Dallas Mavericks are. So we're going to see the Clippers getting home court advantage here in the first round of the playoffs. The big question for them is going to be, is Kawhi Leonard going to be ready to go for them this playoffs? Leonard won't play in this game for sure. He's still out with that knee issue, and since it's a Kawhi Leonard injury, guys, I've got no information. The only person with information is probably Kawhi and his robot doctor, because nobody on the freaking Clippers knows anything. Just nobody knows anything in general. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens with him. If there's any chance he comes back for the playoffs, I would kind of hope for the Clippers franchise sake that he will, but no way to know that right now. Currently, we see that the Clippers only have James Harden and Kawhi Leonard listed on the injury report. Harden has been an absolute dumpster fire here down the stretch, and he's currently listed as questionable due to right foot inflammation. I don't know what's inflamed on that guy, but he is looking just completely awful here down the stretch. The Clippers know they're going to face the Mavs here in the first round. They'll probably sit Harden to avoid any injury, and we'll see a big dose of Russell Westbrook in this game, which makes me think it's going to be a pretty competitive one. I kind of lean towards Houston plus 1.5. This game likely means more to them than it means to the Clippers right now, who are getting ready for the playoffs, and Houston just getting ready to go into the offseason. So give me a taste of Houston plus 1.5. Neither one of these teams have significant positive trends when they're playing at home versus on the road or anything like that. So definitely give me a taste of Houston minus 1.5, and no real lean here on the over-under that's sitting at 220. Last but not quite least, we've got the Portland Trailblazers going on the road to take on the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento has been in an absolute free fall lately. They've lost their last 3 games in a row, and they've lost 5 of the last 6 overall. They were out of the play-in tournament looking like everything was going to be okay, but then we saw an injury to Malik Monk, and now things have fallen off a cliff. If they lose this game, they could finish in the 10 seed. That's not really where they're going to want to be, but they've got a pretty easy matchup, and they're heavily favored here against the Portland Trailblazers. Portland's coming into Sacramento in this game. They have lost their last 4 in a row. They did play a relatively close game against the Houston Rockets. Before that, they played a close game against the Warriors, so they've been keeping things pretty competitive lately over their last 3 games against some pretty decent opponents. Portland comes into this game. We see Scoot is on the injury report, Jabari Walker and DeAndre Ayton on the injury report as well, so it's going to be very important to see if those guys play. You would definitely think they'd want to get Scoot in there. He's listed as questionable due to a left hip injury. I would think if he's healthy enough, they'd want him to go. Obviously, you don't want to see a guy get hurt here at the end of the season or re-aggravate something in a meaningless game, but man, he has not gotten as many reps as they would have hoped for this year, so I don't know what they'll actually do with him. Jabari Walker is doubtful with the knee issue. We see DeAndre Ayton. He's not exactly a workhorse. I'd be a little bit surprised if we saw him play in this game. He's questionable with a back issue, so it kind of seems like Portland's going to a little bit roll over in this game, but definitely keep an eye on that injury report, because if they play a lot of their guys, they've shown that they can keep things relatively competitive. The Sacramento Kings come into this game with a clean bill of health, except for Malik Monk. They have to be a little bit tired, but they had yesterday off, so that has to feel pretty good, and they have to be very determined to get this win here and give themselves the best chance they possibly can of avoiding being in the 10 seed. The Kings are minus 16.5 in this game. We see they're a not very good team against the spread at home, so even if we don't know everybody who's going to be available for the Trailblazers, I lean towards Portland plus 16.5. Maybe they can keep this game a little bit competitive like they've been doing just in general here recently. Although, like in their game against the Rockets that they lost by 9 points, we did see Jude Henderson play in that game and play really, really well. Just in general, need to see a little bit more from the Portland injury report before we could really lock this game in one way or the other. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all your bets, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out StumpTheSpread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.